Right guys, we are back today with another video. We're going to be taking some scrap metal that we've got left over in the workshop and putting together some really cool industrial furniture. So we've got a sketch here, literally really simple, nice and easy. I'm going to use this metal to build something really cool for the house. Keeping in the theme of industrial furniture, which I think works really well and is really popular at this time, this design's really simple and it's going to use the exposed metal to create that cool, rough industrial finish that people are going for in their houses. And if you haven't worked out already, what we're building is a bench. This bench will have a wooden top, but today we're going to focus on the frame. So this will accompany a dining table and be something that will just sit in the kitchen nicely and be a nice addition. So, if you like the sound of that and want to see how this bench comes to life, I recommend staying tuned and we'll get straight into the action. So, if you're into your metal projects, you'll know that most of these things start with the boring stuff, which for me is the prep work. So, we spend the first part of this video cutting up the metal, prepping it all, checking measurements and making sure it is all ready for assembly. One of the things that I'm doing here is taking the four legs, so one on each corner, and making sure they are exactly the same height. Obviously, if I was an absolute wizard on the bandsaw, I'd get this perfect, but sometimes you lose a mil here and there, and it's nice just to make sure it's perfect. So clamp them together, and then take the flat wheel on an angle grinder and square up any imperfections. This way I know that the bench is going to sit perfectly level and be good whatever surface it's on. Now that we've finished those legs up, we can crack on with the rest of the cutting and get this all knocked out so we can start assembling. So we stick these lengths, slightly different size, into the bandsaw and cut these down. Just double check my lengths after, just to make sure no adjustments are needed, but it all looks good. So with a quick tidy up, we can go about creating a fixture to weld these legs together. So want to make sure this is all nice and square and consistent, which is the beauty of having one of these tables. So we make a small fixture using all our clamps and begin to put these pieces together one by one. One point I think that's great to highlight is the importance of working out your jigging method and sticking to it throughout. Once you get a good jig set up, it makes the work really easy. It's kind of a rinse and repeat then. You can see here we've got a process. Maybe I could have made it a bit more fixed to the table, but every time I've got a setup and it's repeatable, which is the main thing, because I've seen before you try and do each corner separately and then you just get variance and your part doesn't come out as intended. So yeah, emphasis there on taking the time to set up a good jig. So with these corners all welded out, you'll see that essentially we're aiming to make two sides that we can then put together and put our central pieces in. So we finished tacking up these corners and you can see here we've got one side and another, and these are essentially the main components for the bench, and now we need to focus on putting the cross members in. So it's a similar concept. We're going to create a jig using the fixtures, 90-degree fixture there, and get this all squared up. With these, because there's only two, it's not as crucial and it doesn't have effects on the height or anything like that. So get those tacked in and we're ready to move on to the next step. We're really starting to make some progress now, and this bench is actually taking shape and looks more like a bench. You can see we've got the majority of this together and we're just buttoning up the last bits of assembly. Just to emphasise, at this point in time everything is only tacked. With all these projects I tack them, build them, check everything's functional and square before I weld them out. It's too easy when you first start welding to get excited, want to weld it out, lay big beads, but I can assure you if you need to change something it is a pain. But it's on the floor and this is our first look at the bench. You can see we've made sure the seams face and everything matches up, but at this point I'm chuffed and I'm thinking this looks really good. Now that the part's all tacked and we're happy with what it looks like, it's time to get into the really fun stuff, which is welding this thing completely out. So prior to that, I get the acetone out and acetone every joint. In theory you should have maybe done this before tacking, but for tacks I'm not too worried. For these longer beads it's nice to make sure all the grinding dust and mill scale and any sort of oil is removed from that joint. But get all those cleaned up, cut the wire on the torch, some anti-splash on the table to keep that nice, and we start welding away. Every joint, taking our time and trying to spread the heat as evenly as possible around this frame. So switching the sides and just making sure we can minimise distortion where possible. A great tip for everyone welding: before you start and dive straight into the welding of your project, get some scrap offcut from when you were cutting the material and set your machine up prior to going in the full hog, because can't tell you enough how many times I've laid a bead and gone, that needs to be a little bit hotter or a little bit colder, and just get your machine dialed in, and then you can lay the perfect welds on your final part. The machine we're using to weld this out is a par weld machine. It's a 160 amp machine. You can see it in the background there. It is nothing special or industrial. Had this machine a long time and it works really well. You can see we laid some really nice welds. It's definitely something I look to upgrade, because when you're welding thicker material over long periods of time, it does get super hot. But you can see a really cheap / basic machine, you can get some nice quality welds. With the welding complete on this bench, we focus on the tabs that will secure the bench top. So we go straight over to the Swift cut table and cut out a set of brackets. Now I know everyone doesn't have this option just to rip brackets out, but when it's there, why not use it? It is super handy. So we cut out 6 brackets, really simple, just with holes in the centre, and these will allow us to fix the tabletop or the bench top to the frame. As you can see, I am making the most of the cutting and getting some cool footage on my phone as well. So this all goes up on Instagram, so if you're interested in following along, my account names, usernames are down in the bio, and you can give them a follow to see what we get up to. To finish up, we are on the pillar drill, and we're just going to drill out all of these brackets. They all need a hole in the centre, so you could have cut it on the table, but we'll get a slightly nicer finish by hand. So we speed this up and we drill all these brackets out so they're ready to be welded on. Once they're drilled, nice little habit I like to do is take a deburring countersunk bit and just break all the edges on the holes. Gives it a nice finish and makes it look a lot more professional. And then quick use of the angle grinder just to knock on any sharp edges and make sure it's all deburred. Tabs cut, tabs dressed, tabs ready to go. We mark out all our centre points on the frame just so when we do weld it we can speed this process right up and not be measuring each time. I grab some handy magnets and spend a bit of time working out the best way to hold it, but with that worked out I find a good process that allows me to clamp each bracket and tack it quickly. So you can see tab goes in place, magnets hold it, one tack, and then I'll add some more tacks, and I can quickly just run round using those lines I've marked as references, and it just makes this process really nice and quick. With those all tacked, I then weld it up, which I didn't capture, and then knock all the welds right back so this whole surface is completely flat. And that is the bench fabricated. With the fabrication done, we move outside and put the finishing touches to this part, which consists of a Scotch-Brite, as you can see here, and a coating of WD-40. I swear by this stuff, on raw steel it gives it a lovely shine and cleans it right up. But you can see this is the final product. I think it looks absolutely mega, and it'll look even better with a worktop put onto it. But that's the fabrication done, and I've really enjoyed making this. So I'm going to wrap this video up there. As you can see by the state of me, it is absolutely roasting in this workshop. It's 27 degrees outside and it's like a greenhouse in here. But the heat aside, we successfully got that bench put together, all welded up, and that's going to look lovely in the dining room. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'm sure I'll catch you in the next one soon where we'll be building something else. Until the next one, take it easy.